What's going on, guys? Gas Station here, giving you another Conquest Lunatic update. Right now, I'm on chapter 16. I just beat chapter 15, so yeah. That is, how many chapters is that from then? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So 6 chapters since the last video. So yeah, I beat chapter 10. It was kind of a bitch. Okay, no, it was very much. It was very, very difficult for me. I kept doing well until like the last 3 turns when the water starts turning into like when the water disappears, like when Takumi uses his dragon vein, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And then the flyers and the flyers just start coming in from like the bottom right side, and they start overwhelming you. That's like for like the longest time I had a lot of trouble with dealing with that. I didn't really know what to do because I was being stretched. My defenses were being stretched way too thin. So I thought my solution would be, I guess, just sort of like attack, like going on the offensive wave first. There's something that my friend Shuloir always used to say about defense chapters. He says defense chapters aren't about how well you're defending. It's how much more you're doing to like the other team. So like a defense chapter is more like kill the enemy boss before anything bad happens, pretty much. That said, I didn't kill Takumi, but like the first 3 turns, like I beat Oboro and Hinata like super early, like really early in the chapter, and that just sort of I unleashed a Camilla. She went crazy in chapter 10. Like, I know she's supposed to do that, but she actually just tore up. She was just totally destroying everyone in chapter 10. Like, I had her overextended. Just like, basically what I did was I put the bosses as a priority first. So I think the first thing I did, actually, let me just tell you what my first turns were. I didn't have Mozu deployed because I thought she would be too weak to handle it, but then I decided to deploy both Niles and Mozu. So I put Mozu, I had her float around the bottom right ballista, just to do some damage to those guys. And then I had Niles in the front ballista taking care of the group of, like the diamond group of spearmen and brigands. I don't know I forget what they're called. Oni warriors or whatever. Oni dudes. And then I had Nyx keep doing the fire orb thing. So I was doing that. First people I had to take care of were the ninjas. I killed the ninjas on the left side so they wouldn't debuff me immediately. And I had Aqua. Okay, I had on to choke that right wall thing in the center, I had Corrin. I gave Corrin. I think I cooked food and gave defense tonics to Corrin, and I had Corrin with the. I want to say the Yato, just straight up the Yato. Just kill as many Oni dudes as possible in the first turn, and I had him, I think, dual striking with Arthur. And so he took care of those guys, and the ballistas and the fire orbs helped with that. And then afterwards, I had Aqua sort of float around Nyx and float around the rightmost area, so Nyx can keep like fire orbing people. So eventually, Camilla and Co came by, and I had Selena go to the right to support Silas and Mozu, who were taking care of. Actually, you know what I did this time? That's what I used to do. I had Silas go to the right, but he was getting overwhelmed because the archers are surprisingly strong in that chapter on the right side. I actually had Effie and Mozu go to the right. So I put Effie out of the front lines in the middle and put her on the right, so she could just like with her javelin, so she could just eat hits by the archers and nothing would happen. So I had her with her javelin, some vulneraries, and Mozu, who was shooting off people on the ballista. And they were sometimes pairing up so Effie wouldn't get doubled. So that was taking care of that whole side entirely. Nyx was taking care of the brigands and every time a brigand would make it to like the almost to the thing, I would just have her not attack. I would just have her like if the Oni guys were one turn away from seizing the point, I just had Nyx just fire shot, just like shoot straight up fire, thunder, or whatever to get rid of those brigands. So those two sides were fine, and then I focused exclusively on the bosses. So I took out those two bosses super early. Sadly, Baruka she whiffed 285% in a row, and I was really pissed. I was like, you just missed 285s. That was like almost a guaranteed strat, so I'm not starting over. So I don't start over for that. I lose Baruka out of just bullshit RNG. Like, how do you miss 285s in a row? Like, Jesus. So I lose 285s. I lose Baruka, sadly. And end up using Camilla to, I don't know, Camilla and like Silas or whatever, take out those two bosses. And I'll tell you what, Hytika is a god. I love Hytika so much. He's so clutch. Like his rallies are like so useful, man. His rallies are amazing. Like they're just straight up godly. So Hytika is just being the beast, and he's already super good anyway. Like he has really good bases, and he just has the best support skills ever. So he's just rallying away, buffing up everyone. So then we kill the bosses. And then I was thinking about trying to go for Takumi, but he's just way too strong. Like I wasn't going to risk. And the only one who was in range was like Silas and Camilla. And Camilla would get destroyed in a turn, and Silas probably wouldn't do that well either. Because the paired up ninjas were coming by. So Takumi does the Dragon Vein. And then I'm like, okay, I can't screw this up. I really can't. So when all the brigands and the flyers come by on the bottom right, I just had Corrin and I think Arthur pair up and had Corrin use his Dragonstone to just distract them and tank them. And then on the left side, I had Camilla and Niles, and I want to say Silas, taking care of the flyers coming up. And then on the left side, I still had Camilla floating around the bottom and like the bottom and the west. So they were just like killing anyone they could find before they were a threat. And that became my strategy, was just like, don't wait for them to come to you, like come to them, like attack them first. And that's what Shulor always said. He was like, defense chapters aren't about defending, they're about attacking first and making sure they're not a problem. Like you neutralize what does Garen say? You salt the seeds before they sprout. Essentially what that is. Like literally that was the strategy. Was just kill them before they are any particular problem. And then the last turn I wanted to risk it because I couldn't. The only house I didn't visit was the one on the right. Like the right closest to us. Sorry, the enemies. And so I tried to risk it really hard by having Corrin try to get in the fray of like those ninjas and those brigands and stuff. Ended up almost killing Corrin, and I had to burn a rescue, unfortunately, because Corrin was gonna die because I tried to get into the village and it wasn't working out. So Corrin didn't make it. I had to rescue him out, and then the turn ended or whatever, and I beat the chapter. So yeah, chapter 10 took maybe a day. Like it took straight up a fucking day to beat. It was a pain. It was a pain in the ass for sure. But it was good because, you know, you just kind of like repeat over and over and over, and you test some new strategies out. I feel like that chapter kind of forces you to think out of the box a little, because ideally you want to like choke your points, stand your ground, and then when Camilla comes in, it's like, okay, I understand now. I have to like go on the offensive and like make sure they don't overwhelm me because they're an entire army. And I changed like who was working the turrets. Like the first time I had Niles go in the center, and then I had Mozu on the right, and then I undeployed Mozu and put someone else in, and that wasn't working out. And then I was like, the only problems I kept having over every run was that enemies on the right side would just do too much damage, and it would force me to retreat, and then the archers would take control of the ballista. And I was like, fuck, I don't know what to do here. So then I was like, well, Silas isn't doing a good enough job defensively to take care of those with Mozu. So I just put Effie there instead. Effie is just really strong for any part in this map. Like, even Effie on the bottom is like, okay, I can put you on the bottom, but really I don't really need you because I have Hytika buffing everyone's defense by +4, which makes like Silas into like a horseback Effie. So so when I put Effie there, she was just tanking everything. Like nothing could stop this girl. And every once in a while, I would like just heal her. She would have vulneraries and whatnot. I think I burned a concoction in this chapter too. But yeah, that was pretty much what I did. Like, that's all I had to do was just have Effie there tanking everyone, and then killing off the bosses, and then just salting them seeds, boys. Salting them seeds before they sprout. The story. What happened in the story? Takumi was just pissed that he couldn't kill Korin. Did no one? Okay, this is what I'm. This kid, and chapter 11 is where I think the story really starts to fluster, like really bad. I really think chapter 11's story is a mess. I think it's really awful. I don't like it at all. There's so many things that really just. Maybe I'm just reading it incorrectly, but from what I gather, it just like this is where the story really falls on his face. So let's talk about the chapter first. I really don't like chapter 11 in both gameplay and story. Gameplay wise, I feel like the enemies are too strong, to the point where I can't rely on putting, like, for example, on the left side there's the archers. When I first tried it out, I put Effie and someone else out there to try to just take care of the archers. But without buffs or without like any buffs or at all, she like can't even survive a turn. Like it feels like she can't survive a single turn with the archers. Like they got overwhelmed in a second. And the same goes for the right side with the Oni people. Like I put what Korin and someone else like in the fray by just like one range for like two units or whatever, and he died in like 2 turns. And I was like, okay, so these enemies are really strong. So then what I had to do was I had to like turtle like a beast, like turtling like fucking real bad. like Barth could run faster from point A to point B than me finishing chapter 11. It was so brutal, man. Like I had to focus on one side, so I had to I buffed with Haitaka for Effie or whatever, and I go to the left side, and then I dance. So then, because at this point, Aqua can dance and do the speed buff and skill buff or whatever, +3 for a turn. So I do that, and I totally roid out Effie, and I have to do that like 3 times to take care of the archer thing, and then I have to take all my units and then put them to the right, and then do that and do a similar strategy with the Oni people. So then I finished that off, and then it's just like a huge. It was so boring because like if I couldn't push, then I'd have to die, and that's what I really don't like about some chapter designs. In this sort of part where I'm talking about is that like the enemies are strong to the point where the enemies are strong, and there's nothing stopping you from taking your time. And since the enemies are so strong, you have to like cheese it by like exploiting your buffs and stuff like that. And I don't really think that's yeah, it's hard, but I don't really think that's good design. Like I don't think that limiting my strategies and my creativity as a player because these enemies are just fucking strong as hell like isn't a good way to design maps. And that's just my opinion. Like I want to be creative, and I want to be able to take risks, and I want to be able to like play, aggressively. but in this chapter it was like, no, you can't. Like you only like we're gonna have five units, and they're gonna tank, and they're gonna dogpile you, and you're gonna only have one entryway. And if you step into my range, there's gonna be like 3 other units that are gonna go in that range as well. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of annoying because like they're gonna pile up on one character, I find. So I didn't split my armies like I thought I was supposed to. I just brought everyone to one side, or I brought like 3 units to one side, and then carried those units to the other side, and then just started rushing everything else. And by rushing, I just mean all my units were actually doing something and not just standing in like the other hallway just fucking twiddling their dicks around. That was my strategy for chapter 11 for the entire thing. I tried to give Mozu some experience because I'm really trying to focus on Mozu, and you'll find out in like 10 minutes why. So yeah, that's what happened in chapter 11. Like it was so uneventful. It was so boring. It was such a boring chapter. Like not even the pillars, like weirdly enough, didn't even give you any avoid boost. I was just like, what is this? Like why? Like it just, like I said in Mangs' video, I felt like chapter 11 was just a glorified flat surface. That's all it felt like to me. Like it was just with a really good paint job and some mechanics, but that's all it kind of felt like. It was just a flat surface, couldn't do a lot of stuff, just had to tank everything and had to be really slow about it. Took my time, took my sweet time. And the story is like, what is happening here? Like, the story for chapter 11 just is so dumb for me. Like, okay, the only part I can forgive is when the villagers are saying like, oh, anyone who tries to travel up Mount Sagesse is totally boned, like you're gonna die. And at first when I read that, I was like, that makes no sense. This, first of all, how do you put two entire armies up on, like, how does two entire armies, both Hoshido and Nor, get to this fucking mountain if it's treacherous and deadly? Like, no one died, none of my soldiers died. And then it kind of clicked. I was like, wait, I'm getting this information from like this old like tubby village woman who probably doesn't know anything of what she's talking about, and all the young heroes she's saying probably is just like young reckless kids who died, unfortunately. Like, we're talking about two entire armies, like the Hoshidan army, who are, interestingly enough, this is kind of where my imagination started going around, like two Hoshidan armies. The Hoshidan army is like really light-footed, doesn't have armor, and yeah, you can make a case for Hasama and like that cleric to be like, how do they hike up the trail? But they can get, you know, carted up like the Rainbow Sage with the Pegasus, because there's 3 Pegasus Knights and 3 untrained foot people in the army. So I was like, oh, okay, that works. And then for the north side, I was just like, I mean, I don't know how they're gonna get their horses on with their armor, but I mean, they're soldiers and like they're capable, I guess. It's kind of a stretch, but whatever. I mean, I don't really feel like that detail was that important to begin with. The whole like, it takes like your life to climb up the Rainbow Sages or the Mount Sagesse mountain or whatever. But then the whole blessing thing wouldn't count, so I don't really know. But that was probably the only part of that chapter narrative-wise that I liked, because it was like, okay, yeah, I can see it. If I think about it, it makes sense. Because there's 2 armies here that are well-trained enough that aren't fucking young kids who could probably scale the mountain. What I really start not to like is the ending chapter, which I think is a mess for me personally. First of all, when Corrin's like, I told nobody to kill, I told my army not to kill anybody. Like, and it feels like that's supposed to make us think that he gets a pass for like being a nice guy. But like, maybe I forgot this, but when did he say that? When Camilla first came to the chapter, like last chapter, I had her fucking destroy everyone, and you're telling me that she didn't like kill any Hoshidan? Yes, she did. She killed a bunch of them. Like, she killed a bunch of Hoshidans, and I don't remember Camilla talking to Corrin about, like, hey, by the way, don't kill anybody. I mean, maybe I made a mistake, and maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems like such an implausible thing to do in a war. Like, it's the laziest way to make someone out to be a merciful soldier. It's just like, oh, by the way, don't kill anyone. Like, how does that even make sense? Like, you're in a war. Like, how do you, what do you like, do you just severely maim them like Batman style, and you think you're like this version's Batman where you can't like do anything wrong because you don't kill anyone? Like, that's justice? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, all they want to do is like fucking kill you, and you're gonna like, what are you gonna do? Disarm them somehow? You think they're just gonna stop because they're disarmed? They're probably like trained in foot combat or something, or hand to hand or whatever. You can't, like, it just seems so implausible to me. Apparently, Corrin doesn't have anyone die in Hanoka's chapter. Don't know about the Takumi chapter because they seemed way more down to kill you. Also, I don't remember the talk happening. So that was like, okay, this is dumb. And then Hinoka escapes with everybody. And then Kaze comes back and is like, dude, I want to join you. And at this point, I'm like, pause on that. Kaze tried to kill you twice already. Kaze tried to kill you in chapter 1, and I mean, he was kind of put against the wall with Rinka, but he still tried to kill you, and then he just fought you out. He just fought you now with showing like he was gonna try to be like, I'm gonna fight you now. So there's like 2 instances where Kaze wants to kill you, and then he's like, no, actually, I know I'm a fucking Hoshidan ninja, and I'm probably really good at deception, but yeah, I want to join your team now. And I'm like, okay, Corrin, you're really naive. But then Camilla she has no line of dialogue. Or like Silas, who is supposed to be like really protective of Corrin, has no line of dialogue. And like Silas is in one of the supports with Silas and Effie or someone like that. He was like, Silas says something like, or it was Azura. It was Azura. And he's like, I don't trust you or whatever. I'm like, Kaze's right here. He fought us twice. And it's just like, no one is opposed to the idea that Kaze's going on their side, and Kaze and Corrin just accepts him. Like, what if Kaze's actually like a double agent and just fucking straight up wants to kill Corrin? Like, we don't know that. Corrin doesn't know that. And and no one is opposed to it, and that kind of throws me off. It's just like, what just happened? Like, why? And then to put the icing on the cake, it's like when Yago comes in and is like, he's like, I want you to kill the Rainbow Sage. And I'm like, did this guy not notice that an entire army of bleeding soldiers just escaped without him knowing? Either this illusion guy like just came in at the perfect time for Corrin, that the entire Hoshidan army had escaped by now and he didn't notice, or Yago was just there the whole time, or didn't hear or didn't see an entire army escaping. Like, what? Like, it's just so implausible. It's just like, why? And then Corrin feels bad about the Rainbow Sage dying, and I'm like, he said it himself. It's not your fault. Like, he said he was going to die, and he was like way past due anyway. And you're crying about it, and it's just like, dude, like, can someone knock some sense into this Corrin kid? Ugh, God, it's like this don't kill anyone rule, which I don't even know has applied before, and Corrin thinks he's this. Everyone thinks Corrin's a saint for applying it for this one chapter, when it's like has been a non-issue for like the other chapters. It felt like Yago just poofing in out of fucking nowhere at the worst at like the worst opportune time for himself. And it's unexplained whether he was there the whole time or not. And either way, Corrin is super lucky, like outrageously lucky, that he's not dead by now, and that he's sad about the sage dying. And it's just like, why are you sad? Like, it's not your fault, dude. I guess he thinks he's responsible because he died after that, but he was gonna die anyway. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't like Corrin. I don't like his naivete, and I don't like anyone else's like being okay with everyone. But whatever. Hopefully that doesn't riff anyone, but whatever. That's my opinion. And chapter 12. Let's talk about some more gameplay stuff. Chapter 12 was the Pots one was chapter 12. 13 was the Rebellion. 14 was the Opera House, and then so chapter 12 is the Pots one, and Mozu was a goddess. Mozu went total. I forged the Mozinator, which is just like a beefed out iron bow, I think. And she just went off. She became a monster. Mozu is like, first of all, her XP gains are super fast. Her growths are amazing because she has aptitude, and she has just insane stats. And on top of that, she gets that skill that gives her like what is it, quick draw, I think. It's like she gets +4 damage on when she initiates an attack. So she was just a monster in that chapter. She actually just tore up. And then Laszlo comes in with rally, and I'm just like, I have rally defense, rally strength and skill, and I have this rally thing that Aqua does, and I have Mozu who's tearing up. I demolished that entire chapter. That chapter was cheesed so hard. I don't know. I thought the medicine pots were the pots were an interesting thing to that kind of were really only an issue when it came to Ryoma. And that was an interesting thing. Like, the pots only became an issue for me when Ryoma came. And then that's when things got kind of stressful. I ended up getting the 5Gs in that pot, or in that chest there. I didn't get the other chest. And I read up that was an armor slayer. And in hindsight, that was probably a needed asset for the next chapter. But yeah, Ryoma was kind of an issue. No one died, thankfully, and Mozu just went off. She tore up. She was like dealing like massive damage. Like, it was absurd. That chapter was pretty fun. Perry is a weird character. She made me cringe really bad. Like, she was a really cringy character. She started talking, and I was like, God, just shut up, woman. Like, I'm not like I'm literally. She only became my pot bot. She was just my pot bot. The entire chapter was just me like, okay, you're gonna for science destroy this pot for me. And then she survived miraculously. Yeah, Laszlo. I'm gonna start using Laszlo. I have started using Laszlo now because I want to see where that rally skill ends up going, because that's really useful. I'm also replacing Odin with him. Odin was just like, I wanted to see how far I could go as a samurai, but like, honestly, he's way too, like, he's just not having opportunities where he can actually do damage and like actually like be useful. And like unlike Mozu, who's like takes a little bit of babying, but then becomes like a straight savage, like right off the right afterwards. It's just I'd rather have Laszlo right now. And there's also Selena, who's in Odin's competition, and Selena was decent, but I'm using Laszlo just for his buffs, and hopefully that goes somewhere. Narrative wise, I kind of forget what happens. It seems kind of like a side quest. It was just like nothing really. You fought Ryoma for the first time, and you kind of find out that it was Yago's trap that had Ryoma waiting there or something. I don't know. I kind of forget. It's kind of a blur. But yeah, it was decent. It was a decent chapter. It was just fun because like I was just tearing up. Like I was just tearing up that chapter with Mozu, and it was baller. Chapter 13 was the rebellion, and that was hard. Chapter 13 honestly might be my favorite chapter so far. Like chapter 13 was like so I've never had to strat and be so creative with my strategy. And I've never had such a hard time with a chapter before. Like people might be surprised. They might think chapter 13 is hard, but oh man, it was really fun to try to find the right strategy for chapter 13. And I was just like, there's so much stuff happening that it's like hard to find out what you want to do first. And that was my issue. Was like Takumi was on one side, Orochi, I think her name, was on the other side. Scarlet was on the bottom left, and there was that woman with this what's her name? So the archer lady was Reina. So there's 4 bosses here essentially, and that to me is really impressive. I don't know, I like the idea of having important characters that I have to like take down during a chapter, and that's something that I really like about Fates. In terms of narrative, I really enjoy being able to fight mini bosses, and I think it's a good idea to have. It keeps the map interesting and keeps like something to look forward to instead of just like, trolling around fighting a single army and a single boss. It's nice to have variation, so I like that about it. But what made the map hard was starting, like figuring out what to do first. The first thing I did was go right, try to go for Takumi, but then Benny and Charlotte came by, and then those 3 diviners killed, like they killed Benny, and that sucks because I really like Benny. So yeah, I really like Benny. So I had to keep him. So I start over, and so then I tried going to the left side and try to take out Orochi first. But as I was taking out Orochi, the Wyvern and Knight combination, the 4 of them overwhelmed my defenses because I wasn't in a defensive position. So then I was like, okay, I have to stay here and defend. But then that Ruffian comes to the bottom left and wants to invade these villages. And I'm like, oh crap, I really want those villages. So I'm trying to I'm kind of like, I have all these objectives to do, right? I have to kill 4 bosses. I have to go fast so the Ruffian doesn't destroy anything. But the thing is that I can't just kill the Ruffian, because if I go for the Ruffian, I can only go with Camilla. And if that happens, then Reina and her Cavalier friends are just gonna kill me. So I'm confused, and I don't know what to do right now, because like I want to get the village, but if I do that, then I die. But if I don't go for the village, then the villages get destroyed. And if I spread left to right, then those wyverns are gonna come and wreck my shit, because that's what they always did. So I was like, I was stuck. So what I did, so after the strategies that I tried weren't working out, what I did instead was I actually took out Reina first. And I had to pull out the most baller strategy, and I recorded it too, because I felt like I was such a genius. And it was just so great. Like it's those things. What I really like about these kind of chapters is like once it hits you, like once you really figure it out, it's like, oh man, yes, yes. So I'll show you guys the video here. I recorded it. Fuck. You. Whatever your fucking name is. I am so done. Eat my dick. The Mosinator. Just this is what I did. So yeah, as you can see, like I used the Mosinator and killed Reyna. And after I killed Reyna, those wyverns came, and then I had Camilla just beat up the wyverns. So the wyverns died, and then the generals were sent back to the far side of the river. And then so that bought me time, and then I killed Orochi, and then I quested down, and then it was just like, and then I took out Scarlet, and then I killed the Ruffian, and I got the villages, and then I kept going, and then the reinforcements came, and I actually almost lost to Scarlet, and thankfully I didn't. And then yeah, it's like there's always the reason I like that chapter so much is that it feels like you're actually like shutting down a rebellion. You see, like there's these 4 mini bosses, or there's 4 bosses essentially, and they're each like they're each tough. They each have their own section of like the city, and you're taking them out, and it's just like it's so much fun. It's such a fun chapter. Like I already have like an affinity for village chapters, and this is just like for me. It was like, personally, I love village chapters. I love the fact that you have to rush, but you can't just rush in there because there's going to be an archer woman. And it's just great. I just feel like that chapter was like so good. Like it had everything I wanted. And it was difficult. There was like, there was so many ways you can take that chapter. And I think it's just, I think that's the best way you can design a chapter, is that like, there's many ways to, go about it. And like it's just, I don't even have words. It's a great chapter. I'm so impressed with that chapter. Maybe people think differently, but for me, I like that chapter more than chapter 10. Partially because Baruka, no one got RNG screwed in chapter 13, unlike Baruka. And I had to like pull up some crazy strategies with skills and stuff. And I didn't actually think I'd have to use lunge at all. But Camilla's skill just came so handy. It also came in handy in chapter 12 too, because I just had her lunge ninjas, and then she just cut through like the pots and whatnot. It was awesome. It's so fun, man. Oh, it was such a good chapter. Also, I like Benny a lot. Benny is another farm guy. He's just, man, Benny's cool. Narrative wise, what is the narrative for that? I don't even remember what happened in the story. I don't think it was anything. I think there was a rebellion that got quelled, and then oh, right, of course. Hans kills a bunch of guys, and then Korn is like, fuck. I don't know. I think I need to reread that entire scene, because Hans follows orders and becomes like a monster and kills a bunch of villagers. Which is kind of shitty. And then Korn is like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm following orders from Garen. Like, what are you going to do about it? So I'm like, okay, this kind of sucks. But then Korn says, like, I'm not going to stand for it, and then still stands for it. So then maybe he was just intimidated by the fate of, you know, what Garen would do to him. But honestly, like, it feels like at this point, like, would Garen really kill any of his children? Like, wasn't it already established that he wouldn't do that? Like, he would never harm his kids or whatever. Like, you're going to have to kill me too, and Garen doesn't do it. Like, Garen, I feel like at this point has established that he won't kill his kids, and he wouldn't kill Corrin. Like, as much as this, I feel like as much as the game would want you to believe that Garen would kill Corrin, I just don't really buy it that much. Like, Corrin has done so much so far for Nor. He's defeated 3 generals. He defeated Ryoma, defeated Takumi, and defeated Hinoka once. And then Takumi for a second time. Like, Corrin would not get killed for strategic purposes on Garen's part. And I really don't think, and I'm just gonna guess here, but the fucking Ceiling Dragon would not order Corrin to die. Like, not a chance. There is no possible way Corrin would get killed for this. Like, you're gonna kill your most capable general ever? Like, no, you wouldn't. Come on. Are you insane? Like, are you fucked? The dragon wouldn't do this. That's just my opinion. Like, I really don't think Garen would kill Corrin for stopping Hans. Like, not a chance. Like, you're gonna kill Corrin, who is the guy who single-handedly changed this entire war in your favor. You're gonna kill off that guy. Sure you are, bud. Of course you are. I doubt it. I fucking doubt that. But I mean, I guess he's kind of like thrown as like a victim of circumstance, and I'm still on the fence on whether I buy that or not. I don't know. I just feel like he just kind of pussies out, and he's just like, he wants to do the right thing, but he decides on not doing it, even though he totally could. And Camilla kind of bitches out as well. So who knows? Honestly, it's not. I'll reread it when I have to. Chapter 14 was the Opera House, and I hated that chapter. Oh my god, I did not like that chapter at all. I did not like it. Design-wise, it sucked. It sucked for me. I hated it. It was such a drag. Like, my god. First of all, I don't understand the reasoning behind designing a chapter that has 0 anti-turtling incentive, but also tries to debuff staff you for no reason. Like, when you debuff me, I'm not doing anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the enfeeble was one thing that was a threat, but I just had Effie or Barry enfeebled because they weren't going to die from physical damage anyway, and that's the only thing that was in this chapter was physical units. So I just had Effie and Barry get enfeebled, Barry didn't even get enfeebled. I just had Effie get enfeebled, and like someone else who was totally, I think they missed the second time, so the enfeebled died. Or Effie got enfeebled once, buffed her up, and then I just killed the hexing rod lady before she actually did a second enfeebling. But for like the freeze and the enfeeble staff, hexing rod is what I meant. Effie got hexing rodded, which is a really trolly staff, by the way. It's really annoying. But yeah, the enfeeble, the freeze, the other enfeeble or whatever, it's like, why is this in this chapter? It does nothing for it. Like, yeah, I guess for LTC, when that becomes an issue, people are going to be like, yeah, you have to deal with that. And I'm like, okay, I get it. But for now, it's just like, what is it doing? Like, why is it doing there? Like, I just sit there and wait till the enfeeble is gone and then just keep going. It's just, were they expecting me not to continue the chapter with debuff stats? Like, why would you expect me to do that? I don't know. And there's nothing going on. It's so slow. Like, what I did was since I wasn't having an incentive not to move, I just tanked everyone, got those first wave of enemies down, had Barry and Niles, and Camilla keep floating around, got the chest, killed the savages, went down. I think Keaton died. I don't really care, but he died in the first turn, and I was like, whatever, bro. I'm not going to use you anyway. Keaton seems like really... I don't like the setting that Keaton was in. Like, how is Keaton, like, this obvious foreigner, able to enter an opera house that should have, like, ushers or security? How does this random guy just come out of fucking nowhere? Like, what? Was it because the rebellion made him able to sneak in at random? It's just like, what is this guy doing here? How is he getting lost and ending up in, like, Chev, or whatever the place is called, Niskensia? How's he here? Why is he here? How is he wandering here and then into an opera house? Like, it just seems so random and stupid. And I was like, okay, whatever, bud. So he died. Probably wasn't even going to bother using him anyway. Yeah, I just kind of took my time with that chapter. Leo was pretty sweet. I like how Leo can one hit kill archers off the bat. That was a good conscious decision just to make him a powerhouse right off the bat, which is really good. Yeah, I didn't capture the boss. I don't even think Niles could do damage to him, to be honest. I probably could have buffed him, I guess, but actually no, I couldn't. I couldn't capture him, but I really didn't care. I wasn't gonna use an Oni Savage, for fuck's sakes. And then the chapter ended. What really annoys me about the decision they made about the narrative in this chapter was they decided not to give any explanation on why it seems like Azura is clearly Azura dancing and it tricks everyone. It makes me think this chapter feels like an insult to intelligence to make us legitimately think that Azura is in a different color, so that means she's like not Azura anymore. And then you find out in Birthright that it was, I think, Zola, I think. Zola, like, this is what someone told me, that he did a transformation spell so she wouldn't be recognizable. But I feel like that's something you have to at least explain at the beginning or the end. If for me, and for a lot of people who saw this for the first time, we didn't have any idea on who Zola was, or who like any of this transformation stuff was. So when I first saw it, I was like, are you serious? We're like, it's like, obviously, I like the first time I saw it, I was like, okay, this has to be a joke. Someone has to be like pulling the strings or something. Like there has to be some sort of, there can't just be Azura wears a different color dress and then it fools everybody. Like, no, that's not. And you might make the defense that like Korn was sitting in like an area where it would be hard to see the performance, but that's not true at all, because Garen doesn't know that that's like, no, that's just being obscured by the water is a total bullshit excuse. Like it's obvious from any angle ever in that fucking amphitheater that was Aqua. And when that's not explained, I was just like, this is a dumb idea. You should have explained this, because it really just comes off like you're trying to insult my intelligence. Like, yeah, look, it's obviously different. Don't you get it? Like, oh yeah, I'm totally going to convince everybody about that. And to me, it's just like, this is really stupid. This is so dumb. I was like floored at how stupid they made it out to be. Like maybe, I don't know how you could do it, but maybe like what you could have done, I think would be a great idea, was actually have Aqua disguised as like some brown-haired, maybe dark-skinned woman, but then like the camera zooms in on her as she's beginning her dance, like where she like flips the water, like she puts her two hands like in front of her face or whatever, and the water comes out. Like once that happened, maybe have like this white fading like transition where like it goes like she does the one hand, the other hand, the water comes, and then it's like her in her dancing costume instead of her just straight up in her dancing costume. If you have this like this actual image of an illusioned woman, and then you kind of like, there's this like fourth wall breaking where it goes like whoosh, like white flash, this is actually Aqua, and then the rest of that cutscene would make total sense and it would be totally believable, because we're supposed to believe that she was disguised as another dancer, and she just totally isn't. It's just I think could be done a lot better if there was just like literally 3 seconds more of animation budget putting into just her changing her skin and hair to someone who's a lot less recognizable from Aqua, and then turns into Aqua for like to let the player know that this is Aqua. That's what I think should have happened, and that would make way more sense for me. And aside from that, the chapter wasn't great. I think the narrative was kind of a bonehead move to not include, to make just assume that it was Aqua, which was so stupid. Like, it was just dumb. I mean, maybe you could make the argument that like, yeah, but then you find out and you kind of have like an aha moment. It's just like, but I don't get that aha moment until after the fact, where I think the game thinks I'm an idiot and thinks I'm convinced by this. Like that's the thing. Like I don't have that aha moment until later, and I just think that they could have just done some really subtle change, or not really subtle. It would be pretty obvious, but a good change that would make it totally. That would make me able to put 2 and 2 together, that this was an illusion Aqua from that chapter. I feel like it should be established in that chapter that was not that from the character's perspective, that wasn't Aqua dancing. Now, chapter 15, which was the infamous mirror crystal ball chapter. I hated that chapter in both gameplay and story. Oh god, gameplay was just so boring. It was like I got so bored, and it was like so long, and it was like I don't understand. Did they explain what the replica could do? Because I wasn't told. Maybe I skipped it by accident, but it took me, like, I was gonna have replica Aqua sing, or replica Corrin go in his inventory or his convoy, but he couldn't. And I'm like, why can't they? They're like, I wasn't told about this. Like, so I kind of killed myself by accident because replica Aqua couldn't sing. I don't know why she couldn't. I died because of it. So that was annoying, and I couldn't rush, and I was so bored of this chapter. It was like 3 units. I was just, like, replicas were just so lame. It was just, I had to turtle. I couldn't rush. I had to, like, just take my sweet time, and I killed the boss, got the speedwing. I was just like, wow, this is really boring. Such a boring chapter. Nothing happens. Like, I know there's a time limit and stuff, but, like, geez. Just make the enemies easier to kill and then make the time limit shorter. There's 3 units. There's 6 units there's 3 units essentially. And it takes them forever to get from... Yeah, just make the turn count shorter and make the enemies stronger. Or weaker. Make the turn count shorter and make the enemies weaker. And make it seem like a quicker paced chapter. But maybe you guys like taking your time. I don't know. I mean, I do, because if I try to rush in any chapter, I die instantly. I don't know how LTCers are going to deal with this. I'll be impressed. I'll be impressed with Don thinks of. Anyways, narrative-wise... Oh boy. Oh man. The crystal ball. How do I talk about this without getting mad? I just think the crystal ball is so contrived. It's just ugh. I just don't like it, man. Oh man, it's just such a bad thing. Like, why does the crystal ball exist, and why does it shatter? Why does it have to shatter? I've had many arguments about the logic of chapter 15 with so many people. And I'm honestly been talking for so long that I can't even, like, be fucked to talk about it right now. But honestly, the crystal ball breaking makes no sense. It's literally just there so Corrin can't tell anyone about it, and it breaks for no reason. Like, she doesn't even, like, Aqua doesn't even, like, the way Aqua doesn't react to the crystal ball shattering makes me think that, like, she knew it was gonna shatter, and she didn't want Corrin to, like, tell anyone, even though he couldn't. But, like, I just don't get, like, if Leo, who is on my team at this point, if Leo can look at the crystal ball, then why don't you just wait? There's, like, fuck, you're already back in the right dimension. Leo can look at it. There's no reason not to. I don't understand why they made this decision to, like, make Corrin to be, like, this guy who, like, I'll sacrifice my happiness for the good of whatever. I'm like, God, shut the fuck up. I'll talk about it in a more funny context, so I'll save it for that. So that's where I am right now. I'm on chapter 16. I think that's the one where you get Xander. So all in all, I really, really like chapter 10. I love chapter 13, and 14 and 15 were squandered ideas, squandered decisions, in my opinion. Like I said before, I tweeted this out. Conquest is the best dumb game I've ever played. There's so many dumb things that happen, but there's so many great, fantastic, amazing decisions that also happen. And it's just like, oh, God, it's just like, just be good all the time, man. Just be good all the time. I mean, you can't get a perfect chapter in every chapter, but, like, those are some pretty awful like narrative design decisions. Like, still really enjoying the game though. I should clarify that. Like I said, in my opinion, you play Lunatic for Lunatic, and the only fun you get is the satisfaction of beating a chapter and finding the right strategy. That has never been more true in Chapter 13 for me. I was so happy when I beat Reyna. I was ecstatic. I like balled up my fist and threw it in the air. I was like, yes, this chapter is mine. This chapter is mine now. Like, thinking outside the box and just using everything Conquest gives you is just like, it's just so smart. I just can't get over how genius some of these decisions are. Like, oh my god, it's like so good. Like, I'm like beyond, it's beyond words on how some of these chapters are just so fantastic. It's just so fantastic. Anyways, what else? I've been visiting other castles. My castle ID is going to be on the bottom there. I'll tell you what. Even though my castle distracts you from like the actual gameplay, I really like just chilling in the castle and rearranging stuff, and visiting other castles and seeing what they're doing for their kind of castle design and like what they're doing aesthetically. It's really nice. I really like that mechanic. Like I said, I didn't think I would, but I'm sold. I really like the My Castle idea. There are some things that I obviously still don't like the private quarters, which is fucking stupid in my opinion. The hot springs, which have no purpose, but apparently getting Izana, which makes no sense at all. Yeah, aside from those two, man, like, and the whole reason why they're there in the first place. Oh, by the way, I don't understand, like, does anyone else get this vibe that like the support team and the main story team were just not talking at all ever? Because you can get Arthur and Elise to support each other and get Xander's attention when Xander's not even there yet. There's just things like that are just like, dude, that's stupid. Like, that's a really stupid idea. Like, it's just talk to each other, guys. FE15, talk to each other. Make this like a good story and good settings for supports, and communicate, boys. That's all you need is communication. There are stuff like that where it's just, man, there's so many dumb moments. Like, that's a stupid moment. Like, that shouldn't happen, but it does. And the whole like Hoshiden's able to invade this castle that's in another dimension. How does that even work, man? Do Hoshidans have access to like the space-time? I doubt it. Do they have like Lilith? Do they have their own version of Lilith? How is anyone else able to invade this? I just, they're like otherworldly invaders. On a more positive note, about characters, well, possibly positive, possibly negative, honest. I like Benny. I don't know if it's a wise decision to use Effie and Benny at the same time, but I think the fact that Benny is like my wall, and he seems to he's more defensively capable than Effie, it looks like. And his skill makes him his skill gives him better skill, or sorry, his personal skill makes him essentially get better skill off the bat because he makes everyone's avoidance reduced. So that's great. So he's like guaranteed hits, a wall. I hope he learns Wary Fighter. I think he probably does since he's a general, or he can be a general. So 2 generals on my team. We'll see about that. I like Benny because he looks normal, and he has a cool look to him. I like his whole entire look, and the fact that he's a farmhand, which is also nice. I like those kinds of characters. So yeah, I got Mozu and Benny, who are both farmer dudes, which is sweet. And the thing that I find interesting about Benny's design is, I don't know if anyone got the same vibe I did, but when he started talking, I was expecting him to be like this gentle, like reserved guy, but when he started speaking, he kind of seemed like he was anxious, and like he spoke like kind of rushed, and like sort of like he was kind of like socially awkward, but even though he was like this supposedly quiet guy. And I thought that was an interesting twist on the whole like quiet knight trope, because like he's supposed to be this quiet guy, but when he speaks, he's like kind of loud and awkward, and I really liked that idea. I thought it was a nice twist. I liked his character gave off a good impression for me, which I found was which was really nice to see in a Fates character, someone who I enjoyed and was surprised by from the get go. Sadly, that doesn't go with Charlotte at all. I don't understand Charlotte's character. It honestly feels like they just threw her in there at the last second. She does not. I find she doesn't fit anything. I find she she comes off like this. She sounds and looks like she just does not belong in the Fire Emblem game at all. She sounds like a slutty millennial. Like, honestly, it feels like she came from like 2016 and just like poofed in this village with Benny. It makes no sense why she just seems so out of place. Like, she sounds so weird. Like, just like, you know, and I know that's weird to say because there are some characters who kind of have like a modern sounding voice to them. And I know that might be hard to like explain or like discern from like other voices, but she really comes off like she's some just like this girl from like a millennial. She just sounds like this slutty girl, and her look is so off-putting for a setting like this. Like, everyone else has like fitting armor, and then there's just this random like girl from this village of all things just dressed like this, and she talks like that, and it's just, what are you doing here? Yuck. Not for me. Same with Perry. Not so much about the look though. I like the uniqueness of her hair and stuff, and I think, you know, I mean, she doesn't wear pants, which is weird, but whatever. I didn't even notice that till later, but the way Perry was speaking was just so cringy. I just cringed, man. Perry was yucky. I didn't like her character. Apparently she sucks as a character too, so I'm not even going to bother with her. And Laszlo. You know what? I never played Awakening, so I don't know what Inigo's character is like, but I enjoy Laszlo. I don't know. He seems nice. I like his rally skill. He definitely comes off like the Inigo that I'm hearing. He is Inigo, obviously. Was it Inigo? No, it's not. It's not Inigo. It's Anyway, well, you know who I'm talking about. Laszlo. I like Laszlo. I'm actually using him. Who else on my team? Effie. Effie just sounds so bad. She just sounds like, her voice doesn't sound natural. It sounds like it kind of comes off like someone who's doing her. It's definitely, it sounds exactly like Sully's voice actress from FE13, which I guarantee it is. But it sounds like she's purposely trying to make her voice really deep like this, and it's really easy to tell that it doesn't sound like a natural voice at all, and it just sounds like a comical voice. And on top of that, her whole character was totally switched around for the English translation, and I don't really understand why they had to do that. Maybe it's because there wasn't enough strong female characters in the cast, and they wanted some like beefy. You know what? I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I feel like Effie should have been the same character, like a gentle giant, and I think it was a disservice to change her attitude and change her voice like that. It doesn't fit her. It doesn't fit her profile at all. It doesn't fit her portrait, and it sounds unnatural. It sounds really unnatural to me. Silas, I enjoy. I like Silas's voice. He sounds like it fits his character. He's one of those voices that fits his character. So Silas is cool. I think the whole best friend thing is kind of weird. And I feel like I think the fact that like Corn just doesn't remember anything. Maybe it's explained. I haven't checked the supports obviously, but maybe it is explained why Silas is so obsessed with him and Corn doesn't remember. And oddly enough, Corn does remember Gunter, something about Gunter and Gunter and Corn's C support, which I find is kind of weird. Like, you remember this random thing about Gunter, but you don't remember like your best friend or your seemingly best friend. It's sort of like this weird thing. Maybe Corn was hit on the head as a kid, and he only remembers a select few things. Lord amnesia is a common thing in Fire Emblem anyway, or just amnesia in general. It's a good way to explain and keep going in a story for Fire Emblem. Just say, he had amnesia. Arthur I liked, but I feel like his character gets old on you. Like it wears on you a little. Like you're like he kind of just says the same thing and acts the same way, and it's just kind of like really comicky. It's gimmicky is what I meant to say. It's really gimmicky, and it could probably grow old on you if you spend too much time with Arthur. And that said, Arthur's falling off for me. I forget if I mentioned this already, but yeah, Arthur maybe it's a lunatic thing because lunatic has fixed growth, but he just seems to be like falling off. Like it's unfortunate because I like the fact that I have an axe user and he's kind of a powerhouse, but his defense is negligible, and he's becoming like weak. I'm pairing him up with Effie just for his kid because I hope his kid is way better than him. Yeah, he's coming off like weak and he's just kind of losing the magic. Like I said about Nyx was eh. I benched her. I thought I was gonna use her, but I'm not going to. So that's that. Who else? Felicia's silly. Felicia's voice is so silly. But aside from a few voice clips, I think her voice is actually pretty nice. I know it sounds silly coming from me. But aside from a couple voice clips from her, I think Felicia's voice is kind of it really fits her character, and I think it's kind of cute. But her character's still sort of like a cliche. It's like, oh, a clumsy maid who trips over stuff. Okay. Gunter seems super generic. Yeah. I think all he talks about is how old he is. And I'm just like, I'm looking forward to reading his support and seeing if there's any substance to him. I'm keeping my eyes open. I feel like Jagan characters tend to have pretty or older characters just tend to have pretty interesting support conversations. Like Wallace's Lynn support and Dwessel's anything support. So hopefully I'll keep my eyes open for Gunter. I hope it's not just I'm old all the time, because that would be lame. That'd be a missed opportunity. I mean, just look at Dwessel's supports. Like, Dwessel's one of my favorite characters in all of Fire Emblem, if not my entirely just most favorite. So I think Jagan, I hope he lives up to the Jagan hype. Can't tell though. Don't spoil me. I like how Leo's a snarky guy. I like how he's snarky to Corrin. That's nice. It's nice for people to like be judged, give Corrin a hard time. I like it. I like that when they like realize that Corrin's actually like unfit and kind of stupid. I like that in characters. Selena, I don't know anything about Selena, and I don't know anything about whoever she was in Awakening, so I can't really say anything about that. Baruka, she retired. Anyways, yeah, those are my thoughts on the characters. Looking forward to see what happens with Mozu and Benny. Thanks everyone for listening to the podcast. The next episode will probably cover chapters 16 to 21. I heard 21 was a huge pain in the ass. So I'll probably make another update around that time. If you've listened to the whole thing, thank you very much. Hope you guys weren't perturbed by my my harsh criticism. I hope my very high praise of some parts of this game eclipsed that. You know, I feel like it's important to give as an honest review as possible. So if you were angered by some things I said, then it's how it is. You should know me by now. I'm very honest about my sentiments on these sort of things. So if you were offended, tough luck. Can't do anything about it. Anyway, that all being said, I'm Gast. Please leave a like and comment, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Adeuces.